Hello lovely humans, it's Ray. As with the Cardinal Severe guide, I wanted to get this guide up as quickly as possible to help spread some knowledge about the new wing. As before, please feel free to point out any corrections or tips in the comments below for anyone else exploring the new wing right now. Cardinal Adina, known as the Earth Djinn, is one of the two first bosses of Wing 7. After completing the pre-event, you'll get to choose between Cardinal Sabir and Adina. Going left will take you to Sabir, the Air Djinn, and right will take you to Adina. We'll be covering Adina, the Earth Djinn, and there is a link in the description below to my basic guide on Sabir too. Adina fixates on the player with the highest toughness. We are instantly thrown into mechanics in this fight, so it is important to pay attention. You'll notice that there are 5 pillars spaced around the platform. These pillars can offer protection against one of the main mechanics in the fight that you will see in a second. The pillars are damaged by various mechanics in the encounter, and it's important to kill them. When a damaged pillar is up, Adina will receive 5 stacks, 1 for each pillar, which will increase the Djinn's outgoing damage and decrease the damage taken from your squad members. While the pillars are up and not damaged, Adina will not receive these stacks. However, the first mechanic you will see, this shockwave, will start damaging the pillars, therefore applying the stacks to Adina. Instead of dodging the shockwave, you can mount up at the start of the fight to avoid the damage. Pillars will take 3 hits before they are broken. The first hit will always come from Adina's shockwave, meaning stacks will be applied to the Djinn. The second mechanic you will see is an expanding AoE from the centre of the arena, similar to that found on Lagos CM. You must be behind a pillar when this AoE reaches the edge of the arena, otherwise you will go down. After this AoE, Adina will fire a projectile at each of your squad members. These are what we'll be using to finish off the rest of the pillars. Given that each pillar from this point will take 2 more hits before it is broken, it is important that you stack 2 players behind each pillar. If you have more than 2, the extra player will be hit by the projectiles after the pillar is broken by the first 2 shots. These will down your squad members. In addition to this, having less than 2 players behind a single pillar means that that pillar will not take enough hits from Adina to be fully destroyed. If a pillar is not destroyed, Adina will continue to receive the buff from it, which is obviously not optimal and will prevent you from applying maximum DPS to the boss. To organise this, you can assign groups of 2 players to be pillar buddies, if you wish, meaning they will always stick together when possible. However, we did not do this. We did however make sure that the tank was always with the same player. This made life much easier for the tank because their pillar buddy will be spawning pillars for them later in the fight, meaning that they can attempt to make the pillar easily accessible for the tank. After the beginning of the fight, you can start to DPS the boss. The tank, as you can see here, will need to block the occasional mini shockwave and a couple of other mechanics, but nothing too stressful. Try to make sure the tank is on the southern side of the arena while your group stacks north to DPS the boss. Positioning is not so important right now, as long as the main group are not taking damage, which the tank should be tanking. Soon you will see a small, slowly expanding AoE around 5 squad members. These AoEs seem to appear around the 5 players that are furthest from Adina when the mechanic triggers. Once these AoEs have expired, a new pillar will spawn at each of the players' positions. As with the beginning of the encounter, it is going to be important to destroy these pillars. You'll notice that when the pillars spawn, they will emit a small shockwave. Players should dodge or block this if the pillars are spawned close to the centre of the arena. This mini shockwave is important as it can be used to damage other pillars. For example, if you still have an unbroken pillar from an earlier phase in the fight, it is good to spawn a new pillar next to that damaged pillar so that the mini shockwave will finish off the older pillar. Another mechanic the tank will receive will be small AoEs on each hexagon in their direction. These will spawn small pyramids on top of each hexagon along with a small red circle. If a player steps on these, the hexagon below will disappear, meaning it is possible to fall into the sand. If you do fall into the sand below, you will be bounced back up, but will also receive a temporary debuff stopping you from applying damage to the boss. These pyramids will not affect the closest hexagon to the boss, so they can tank comfortably close. The next mechanic you will see will be the eye. This is much the same as the eye found in the Shattered Observatory fractal. It is important for you to look away from the boss, otherwise you will receive the same debuff as you would if you were to fall into the sand below. Immediately after the eye, another AoE will expand from the centre of the platform, causing players to need to hide behind the pillars in 2s, as before. After this, return to DPSing the boss. You'll notice here that we failed to destroy 1 pillar, and you can see that as a result, Adina has 1 stack from it. Notice that, as mentioned before, we are trying to spawn new pillars next to the old one that still remains in order to destroy it with the mini shockwave created by them. Continue to DPS the boss down to 75% where you will phase. The hexagons below the small pyramids will disappear, creating a gap in the platform which you will need to jump or glide over. Any pillars on the platform will be immediately destroyed, and Adina will begin to emit a rotating attack not dissimilar to Sabbath's Flame Wall, which will one-shot anyone caught in it. Rotate around the platform to avoid this attack. Once the attack has made one full rotation, get your squad to stack on the northeastern area of the platform, where you can see our arrow marker. A Hand of Eruption will spawn. It is important to kill this hand first, as it fires projectiles that can easily knock players out of the arena. These projectiles can be reflected, we used Mesmer Focus and Dragon Hunter walls, and stability can also be used to avoid the knockback. Once you have killed this hand, finish off the Hand of Erosion directly opposite. You can now return to DPSing the boss in the same stack positions as before. You'll notice the arena will now have changed shape, meaning you have to be a little more careful while navigating the fight. Continue to deal with the same mechanics that you have previously in the fight while taking the boss down to 50%. At the 50% phase, you'll need to avoid Adina's rotating attack again, and stack on the northeast hand as before. This time, you will have 4 hands spawn instead of 2. 2 Hands of Eruption and 2 Hands of Erosion. The Hands of Eruption will be at the northeast and southwest corners of the arena. Start by killing the same hand as before, using Reflex to avoid the projectiles. Move opposite to kill the second hand. You can see here that we get hit by projectiles from the Hand of Eruption. These are what you want to reflect. While killing the second hand and moving to the third hand, it is recommended that you have squad members apply stability so that you do not get knocked off while moving. Continue to rotate anti-clockwise to the third hand, a Hand of Eruption, and use more Reflex to avoid the projectiles. Finish off the fourth hand and return to DPSing the boss. The arena will change shape again. Continue tackling the various mechanics you have already experienced and DPS the boss down to 25%. In the 25% phase, kill the hands using the same method as before, and return to the boss. In the last 25% of boss health, you will notice that hands spawn during this phase. You can move to kill these if you wish, as it will make the fight a little easier. If you do want to skip killing the hands, it is recommended that you have high stability uptime or reflex to make sure your group doesn't get knocked around and damaged. You'll notice we decided to skip the hands to see what happened. It worked for us, but you'll also notice that it wasn't exactly a smooth ending. Continue to deal with the pillar mechanics as you have for the past phases of the fight, and take the boss down to 0%. That's it for Adina. I hope I've covered enough for you guys to get started, and best of luck to you. I'll put a link in the description for the VOD of our kill if you wish to see it. For more raid content and guides, come hang out on Twitch, and of course you can check my YouTube channel. See ya!